Hello, I am Natalia Wojtkowiak and you are listening to the Manage the Problem podcast. I'm creating this place for owners and decision makers of small and medium-sized manufacturing companies. In this podcast, I talk openly and specifically about the problems of the production industry. I explain complex issues related to production management in simple language. I advise how to create optimized processes and effective teams. This is podcast created by practitioner for practitioners. So if you are looking for a knowledge, inspiration in a field of effective and efficient production and team management, you are in the right place. Welcome. I hope you are ready. Manage the problem. Do you know someone who was thrown into deep and unknown water for the first time in his whole life? And after a while, she swam in it like Michael Phelps? I don't know Phelps or anyone like that either. So where does your belief come from? Probably bordering on certainty that a new employee, regardless of whether he is an operator or a manager, will be able to find her way in the environment and processes of your company after a day or 1 week. And why the surprise and even sometimes disappointment that they can't still do it as you would like after implementation period? Onboarding in manufacturing companies is often a theoretical concept that doesn't bring any bigger benefits. And in small and medium-sized companies, this is often wasted time. You know, this process resembles me scene from Harry Potter when Dobby got soaked and was free. The same here. Look, a new employee will be given safety shoes and laptop and let him go work and earn money for organization. No, guys, it doesn't work like that. And no magic will happen here. Sorry. Just as no magic formula in Excel will change the fact that if you don't develop or don't improve the process of onboarding a new employee to be more planned and efficient, this 3-6 months of her trial period will be present at work, not value work. For you, for your company, for team, it means one thing: lose. Why do I allow myself to make such strong statements? Because I participated in onboarding many times. I watched onboarding processes on new employees dozens of times. And I heard countless stories about this process, or rather its lack of thereof. But I also have several created operational onboarding processes under my belt. Today, I can say that this time in most companies is often like speeding plane to nowhere. Why? But first of all, let me introduce to you James and Christine. Each of us was James like that at least once, I guess. And I wish everyone would always go through implementation processes of new employee like Christine. They were both employed in the same production company but in different times and in different positions. James, year ahead as process engineer, and Christine as maintenance technician. Well, what did James encounter during his trial period? The company was unprepared to accept the new employee. Typically, the HR department has known for many weeks that one of the departments needs to hire a new person. They also know how long it will take for a new employee to start work in the company. Often it's 1 month or 3. And despite all this time, no one was able to organize a workplace, tools, and calendar of meetings that would introduce a new person to the company, its structure, products, and processes. And this is our James, who comes to work and doesn't know what exactly to expect in the next few days in new workplace. Often someone as James is still waiting for a laptop and systems parts of building access aren't yet available. And safety shoes are too small, and there are many such small inconveniences. We must remember that the company and new employee can only make a first impression once. And our James wonders, if everything in this company looks like this, yet everything looked so good during the interview, as always, Even for a moment he was afraid that he wouldn't get the job because he thought his competences were too weak. Now he wonders whether he made mistake and whether he was fool. The company doesn't specify the job specification and skills of position. Each position in company should play a specific role. Positions from different groups shouldn't completely overlap in terms of responsibilities and skills, but complement each other. It should be clear what a given position is responsible for, what substantive and soft skills are needed to work effectively, and what network of cooperation dependencies a given position is in. When our James asked his manager and new colleagues what exactly his responsibilities and duties would be, he received imprecise answers. There was no plan prepared for his first days of work. He was a bit bored. He didn't know what exactly he should focus on to implement himself in the most important topics for the company. And the different opinions of those around him only blurred the boundaries of his responsibilities. The company doesn't have a plan in what order and to what extent to transfer knowledge. This is one of the most serious shortcomings in onboarding. It isn't known what information and skills are needed for this position and how to conduct learning from general to specific knowledge. Often these details aren't as important as they seemed, and the really important ones weren't talked about at all. This only increases the growing stress and sense of loss in the new employee. Our James, and it gives rise to the first tiny sparkle of the motivation and fatigue. I thought they need support in production processes, but they need help with everything. I hope at least this building is built properly, James thought ironically. The company doesn't have sources of knowledge to refer to. The problem is especially popular in small and young production companies, which often have small, well-known teams and long-term employees. No one asks how to assemble the sensoring robot arm because Peter has been doing it for years, no one else. If a newbie comes, only Peter will explain the whole process, but when Peter is absent from work, the details of assembly process will disappear with him. Another thing is that each person has a different way of working. So one robot can be assembled in several ways, but which one is right and provide the best quality? There was a lot of information for James. New faces and names, their positions, new places, and the new processes, their sequences, stages, components, and assembly time. James needs something like a manual where he would find information on who is ahead of quality, what assembly takes place in area A, and whether of the top cover is assembly first or last one. Unfortunately, the new company had neither such a manual nor even up-to-date and correctly maintained documentation. James knew there was a lot of room for improvement. The trial period doesn't prepare you to independently perform tasks or make decisions. Another very serious problem of this first period at work is the fact that all training and meetings provide theoretical knowledge that a new employee cannot use completely or at all in everyday work. This isn't shown what is the expected result of his/her work and what is a mistake and why. As a result, newbie is unable to take effective actions and good decisions. There is also no opportunity to practice working with a process, system, or tools. This makes his/her less dependent at work and makes mistakes more often. After 3 months in James' new job, he tried to implement it as quick as possible. Get to know the new people, production, know as much as possible about the process and the production line. But he still felt that he wasn't independent, that he didn't trust his own knowledge. If he had to do something on his own, he wouldn't do it in 100% correctly. 3 months and I still don't really know anything. Maybe I am not cut out for this job. Maybe they see this and won't extend my contract. What a waste of time and energy, James thought. The company doesn't have specific expectations regarding skills and level of independence after trial period. The lack, which is only a result of lack of implementation plan and insufficient knowledge about position, is a lack of expectation as to what a person after a trial period should know, be able to do, and in what situation he or she should handle completely well. Of course, I am aware that in 3 months or even 6 months, a new employee will not learn everything and will be not error-free. However, I am always amused by disappointment of supervisors in companies, you guys, whose implementation processes didn't exist at all or were far from ideal, that after such a long time the employee is not able to do this or this. Even Michael Phelps mentioned at the beginning, couldn't swim from the first day of his life. First, teach him/her how to stay afloat, then how to swim properly, and then motivate and teach him/her how to achieve more. And speaking of achievements, it's interesting how companies really like talk about their results and success during a long presentations and numerous meetings. A bit like rappers who repeat in every song how much money they have in their account and how many supermodels they know. Lets you forget. But I have encountered such absurd situation when during onboarding the company's self-promotion presentation was the same at every meeting. And I started to wonder whether I would create the implementation and production department or the marketing and PR department there. After onboarding in this company, I knew more about the company's plans for the next 5 years than about production processes, customer requirements, and complaints from the last year. Another common phenomenon are long meetings with people who will not work directly and whose processes will not have a direct impact on your area. I agree that it's worth knowing the structure of company, knowing the people and what they do. However, you can meet someone during a lunch or coffee break, not during a 2 hours meeting where you no longer remember this woman's name and she knows that you are falling asleep without understanding the terms she uses. The same applies to learning how to work with a given program. The classes are too quick. You don't know yet where to find a daily report with result on your disk, but you already have training in KPI or SAP calculations. Either the company given you extensive training in the program that you will not only use occasionally and only in small amount, or you will not have access to it. Now you are probably rolling your eyes and sighing. Natalia, first you complained that there are no meetings and trainings. Now you complain there are too many of them. Can you decide? You have to decide, guys. Time spent on ineffective training is a waste of your money and resources of your company. Your process, which doesn't receive the necessary support, and your team, which even thought is larger, it's still overloaded. The smaller company and the smaller budget, the faster and more noticeable it will be. So what can you do? Let me take as an example onboarding process created by our James and attended by Christine, a new maintenance technician. Step number 1. Information. 3 days before her first day at work, Christine received email from a HR department with detailed plan for her first day of work. It was introduction day with the company. It consisted of such points as meeting about safety rules, collecting a laptop and safety shoes, presenting the company and its structure, and walk around the company. Next day, Christine's new manager introduced her all members of his team and invited her to a weekly meeting on Tuesday at 1 p.m. to discuss progress in its implementation and any problems and questions. He also presented her with a 3-month implementation plan, where in each period of time she was given to knowledge and skills she should have and which in case of working with system or machine would be checked with a test. Step 2. Define responsibilities and expectations. Christine's boss presented her with exact scope of responsibilities she would have as technician. He explained what criteria he used when assessing employee after the trial period and subsequent work. He noted what skills were important to him and what exactly he expected from Christine. Someone may say that these two steps are imposing peace and pressure. This will happen if the training is full of unnecessary activities or the position itself is overloaded with responsibility. This is another topic. I know from my own experience and after implementing onboardings that the new employees prefer to know exactly what the scope of knowledge they need to learn, what responsibilities they have, and what is required of them. This makes it easier to set yourself up and focus. Additionally, regular meetings with the boss allow you to undertake your duties correctly from the very beginning and solve any difficulties. However, for all this to work, an analysis of what a given position needs and a plan on how to transfer this knowledge to consistent implementation in gradual but open to needs of given employee are required. Step number 3. Practice reaction and process knowledge. Christine spent most of her implementation with her team in production, where her colleagues show her the most common failures, how to repair and catalog them, and other tasks that make up their work. They also repeatedly triggered failures or prompt on the machine so that Christine could check her reaction and skills under their watchful eye. She was very good. The ability to frequently and independently practice reaction under the supervision of the more experienced employee is still underestimated. Considered as a loose, employees know theoretically what they should do, but when the moment comes to do it on their own, sometimes under time pressure, the knowledge evaporates and the actions are chaotic. As a consequence, the problem isn't solved or is solved poorly, and the new person is perceived as incapable, unnecessary harm to both parties. Step number 4. Body and the manual. On the second day of work, when Christine had the first meeting with her boss, she met Henry. Her boss introduced her to Henry because Henry will be her buddy. Henry is very good at his job. He has been working here for 5 years and he's a very sociable person. His task for the next 3 months will be to introduce Christine to the life of the company and help her. In addition to the guardian colleague, Christine also gets a kind of manual containing all necessary information that would make it easier for her to find her way in the company. James remembered well how it felt just 1 year ago when he started working here. He was lost. The organizational mess that was terrifying, and the new information disappeared from his head after a few days. That is why he proposed and implemented all these changes. The role of body in company is a link between 2 areas, professional and social. Such a person who already has experience in organization and has extensive soft skills can effectively lead the implementation of a newbie, but also introduce him to the team. And often naturally such a person appears. However, I am a supporter of idea it being selected and not accidental, providing correct information and not discouraging the new employee with its opinions. This doesn't mean that he should spread propaganda. It's always disgusting. The manual is rarely used tools, but it could be a value source of knowledge and standard of company, not only for now new Christine, but later for James and another like him. Such a book, file, website allows you to acquire the most necessary information in orderly manner, co-create a kind of standard, and be a source of knowledge. Finally, I would like to touch on the topic that is often swept under the rug. Several times, I witnessed a situation when a new person had a very good hard skills, but didn't fit in the team, destroyed the atmosphere. Everyone felt that was better before he or she joined. In the most cases, such a person is left, hoping that the team will accept him or her and that he or she will adapt. Because we need a new employee, because we have invested in him or her. Just from my experience and the experience of my fellow managers, retaining such a person is holding a bomb in your hands. Onboarding is one of the most popular processes and occur in every company. I will even chance to say that is one of the key activities that build awareness, quality, and standard of work in companies, and certainly in the production sector. It is important that it has its own supervisor, like James in our story, who created, implemented, and will modify it, for example based on the Christine opinion or effectiveness of new employees. And the personalization of onboarding process to the needs of given area or position, it is updating for changing needs is the last, fifth step today in our podcast. I invite you to listen to the next episode of Manage the Problem podcast. I will also be grateful for any substantive feedback, positive comments, and sharing this material with others in our industry. I want this podcast will be a value and interesting time spent for you. You can find me primarily on LinkedIn, but also on Instagram Manage the Problem. See you in next episode. Manage the Problem. Natalia Wojtkowiak.